8 main reasons why your shoulders never grow and you never develop the V shape. I know it is boring to say, but we cannot lie. Wide shoulders are what separates an ordinary physique from an impressive one. It does not matter if you have great arms and a big chest. Without developed deltoids, there is no V shape. Unfortunately, most people who have been training shoulders for years without results love to repeat the old genetics excuse. Oh, my shoulders do not grow because my structure is bad. And when you take a closer look at that person's training, they are making some, or worse, all of the mistakes we are going to show here. Mistakes that, yes, seem small and look like minor details, but make all the difference in results. That is why, today, you will see the 8 main reasons why your shoulders never grow and you never develop the V shape. Before we begin, leave your name and your biggest training challenge right now in the comments below. We will do our best to read as many comments as possible. Reason number 1, you leave shoulder exercises for the end of your workout. Think fast. How is your shoulder workout structured today? If you answered that it happens after chest and before triceps, in that famous combined routine, you just found one of the reasons your shoulders are stagnant. When the deltoids enter the scene at the end of the session, they receive a second-rate stimulus. The accumulated fatigue from larger muscles, especially the pectoral, has already consumed a good part of your energy, your strength, and even your focus. The result is predictable: less load, fewer quality reps, and increasingly sloppy execution as fatigue builds up. And it is not just a feeling. Your performance on the first exercises of the workout is always superior because that is when energy stores are at their peak and the nervous system is still fresh. That is why there is a virtually universal consensus among coaches and researchers. Weak points should be prioritized at the beginning of the session. If your goal is to make your shoulders grow, they need to open the workout, not pick up the leftovers. This is especially true for those who are already past 40, when the capacity to recover within the session itself is no longer the same as it was 20 years ago. I have observed that practitioners who simply reverse the order, placing the deltoids as a priority, report visible gains within a few weeks, without changing absolutely anything else in the routine. One mistake I see many people make is thinking that exercise order is just a minor detail. It is not. Restructuring the sequence increases stimulus intensity, improves the quality of each rep, and allows you to use more challenging loads safely. It is probably the simplest and cheapest adjustment you will make in this entire video. It costs nothing and delivers a lot. Reason number 2, you let the trapezius do most of the work. This one is a classic. You do lateral raises every week, feel the workout, leave the gym with a sense of accomplishment. But what grew was the trapezius, not the deltoid. This happens because the trapezius is a strong and opportunistic muscle. Whenever the load is excessive, whenever you use momentum to lift the dumbbells, or whenever you raise your arms above the shoulder line, it takes command of the movement and literally steals the work that should belong to the lateral deltoid. The consequences go beyond aesthetics. In addition to limiting the development of the portion that most contributes to shoulder width, this pattern can create muscular imbalances and overload a region that, after decades of training or a previously sedentary lifestyle, is no longer so forgiving. The correction is simpler than it seems. First, swallow your ego and use a load you can truly control. Second, keep your shoulders pressed down throughout the entire set, as if you were pushing your ears away from your shoulders. Third, raise your arms only to shoulder height, never above that. Fourth, maintain an upright posture with a slight knee bend to stabilize the body and eliminate momentum. And finally, control the movement on both the way up and the way down, maintaining constant tension on the deltoid from start to finish. You will know you are doing it right when you feel the side of your shoulder burning for real, and not your neck and upper back crying out for help. An extra tip that works very well: lean your torso slightly forward, just a few degrees, as that already helps take the trapezius out of the equation. And if you want a quick test to find out whether you make this mistake, record a set from the side. If your shoulders rise toward your ears with each rep, the diagnosis is clear. Less load on the dumbbell, more load in the right place. That is how shoulders grow. Reason number 3. You do not train the deltoid with different resistance profiles. What many people do not know is that each piece of equipment imposes a different resistance curve on the muscle, and sticking to a single stimulus means leaving growth on the table. Let us take the clearest example of all, the lateral raise with dumbbells. When the arm is at the side of the body, at the beginning of the movement, the tension on the deltoid is practically zero. Gravity pulls the dumbbell downward, toward your body, and the muscle barely works. Tension only becomes maximal at the top, when the arm is parallel to the floor. In other words, a huge portion of the range of motion is simply wasted. Now compare that with the same lateral raise performed on the cable machine. There, the tension is constant from start to finish, and the lateral deltoid is stimulated even in the lengthened position, with the arm still close to the body. And that matters enormously, because recent science has shown that stimulus in the lengthened position is precisely one of the regions with the greatest hypertrophic potential in the muscle. In other words, the cable works exactly the portion that the dumbbell ignores. Does this mean you should abandon dumbbells? Not at all. Each tool has its value. Dumbbells challenge the top of the movement and stabilization more. Cables ensure continuous tension, and machines allow you to bring the muscle close to failure with much greater joint safety. Something especially welcome for those who already have a few years of shoulder training behind them. The practical recommendation is to combine dumbbells, cables, and machines throughout the week. That way, you ensure complete stimulus throughout the full range of motion. Attack the deltoid from different angles and resistance curves, and unlock growth that repeated stimulus alone would never deliver. Reason number 4. You do not give enough attention to the lateral and rear deltoid. Here is an uncomfortable truth. Your front deltoid probably does not need any more work at all. It is already intensely activated in every bench press and overhead press you do week after week. There are even analyses showing that the front portion tends to be, by far, the most developed in weightlifters, while the lateral and especially the rear deltoid live in an underdeveloped state. And guess which portions create the look you want? Exactly the forgotten ones. It is the lateral deltoid that builds width and the V shape, that frame that makes the waist look smaller even without losing a single pound. And it is the rear deltoid that gives shoulders their complete three-dimensional appearance, that full shoulder look visible from any angle, while also playing a fundamental role in joint stability and posture. The shoulder is a complex joint that requires balance among all three portions. And when that balance does not exist, the problem is twofold. First, the physique becomes disproportionate, with shoulders projected forward and a rounded inward appearance. Second, the risk of injury increases because the joint loses stability precisely in the region that should be protecting it. After 40, with tendons that no longer tolerate as much abuse, this stops being an aesthetic detail and becomes a matter of training longevity. The recommendation is straightforward. Prioritize lateral raises for the lateral portion and include exercises like the reverse fly on the cable or machine for the rear, dedicating more weekly volume to these two portions than to the front. The front deltoid already receives more than enough indirect stimulus. Stop watering the plant that has already grown and start taking care of the ones that are wilting. Reason number 5. You train shoulders only once a week. Let us do a quick calculation. If you train shoulders once a week, usually squeezed in after another muscle group, with only 2 or 3 exercises, how many quality sets do your deltoids receive per week? In many cases, 8 or 9. That is insufficient volume to maximize hypertrophy in virtually any muscle. And in the shoulders, the situation is even worse. Remember that the deltoids are made up of 3 distinct portions: the front, the lateral, and the rear, and each one of them demands specific stimuli with different angles and exercises. Dividing a handful of sets among 3 portions is like trying to fill 3 glasses with a few drops of water. Naturally, a muscle with this characteristic demands more total volume, and to accommodate that volume with quality, more frequency. The recommendation based on current evidence is to train shoulders at least twice a week, varying the exercises between sessions to target all 3 heads of the deltoid. Distributing volume across more sessions also improves the quality of each set because you arrive more rested for each workout, something that makes an enormous difference when recovery no longer happens at the speed it once did. And here is a suggestion that may sound excessive but is not. Consider a day dedicated solely to shoulders. A workout in which they are the main event allows full focus on technique and intensity, without the fatigue of training them after large muscles like the chest. Regular practitioners who adopt this structure often report not only more growth, but also greater execution awareness in each portion. A simple way to start is to keep your current workout and add a second, shorter session during the week, focused only on lateral raises and rear deltoid work. Small shoulders are rarely a lack of genetics. In most cases, it is a lack of well-distributed volume. Before we continue, do not forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Having constant access to science-based information is what will make you progress with health over the long term in the world of exercise. Reason number 6. You neglect range of motion and do not control the eccentric phase. This reason combines 2 mistakes that almost always go hand in hand: partial range of motion and the free fall descent. Let us break it down. When you shorten the range of motion, such as not lowering the weight all the way down during the overhead press, you stop stimulating all the fibers of the deltoid, especially in the lengthened position, and you compromise both hypertrophy and strength gains. Studies comparing full range of motion against partial range clearly show superior gains in the group that works the full movement, even when they need to use less load to do so. Read that sentence again, because it tears apart the main excuse for partial reps. The second mistake is dropping the weight during the lowering phase, as if the rep ended at the top. When you do that, you are literally wasting half of the exercise. The eccentric phase, the one in which the muscle lengthens while resisting the load, is one of the most important for growth, accounting for somewhere around 40 to 50% of the movement's hypertrophic potential. It is what generates high time under tension and the positive muscle damage that triggers reconstruction and growth. Dropping the weight in free fall means half the stimulus and, as a bonus, more stress on the joints, exactly what nobody needs after 40. The solution to both problems is the same and starts with a decision. Train the muscle, not the ego. Reduce the load, perform the full range of motion, and control the descent for 2 to 3 seconds on each rep. I know it stings a little to take weight off the bar in front of everyone, but it stings a lot less than spending another year with the same shoulders as always. Less load with complete execution generates more stimulus, more growth, and less injury risk. Simple as that. Reason number 7. You do not apply the principle of progressive overload. Here lives one of the most persistent myths in the world of weightlifting. Many people religiously apply progressive loading on the bench press, write it down, celebrate every extra pound. But on shoulder exercises, they've been using the same pair of dumbbells for 2 years. All because they believe deltoids respond better only to many reps with light weight. Let us clear this up once and for all. That intense burning sensation in long sets of lateral raises comes mainly from lactate buildup in the muscle. It is uncomfortable, it feels productive, but burning is not synonymous with hypertrophy. To grow, the muscle needs a reason, and that reason is called a challenge above its current capacity. Without that growing challenge, the body has no physiological reason to spend energy building more muscle mass. And remember that progressive overload does not mean only adding more weight. You can progress by increasing reps with the same load, going from 8 to 12 reps, for example, adding sets over the weeks, progressing from 2 to 3 sets, or increasing time under tension with a more controlled eccentric phase. Comparative studies reinforce this. Groups that progress the load over the weeks show far superior gains in both strength and muscle mass, compared to groups that simply accumulate light reps until the burning kicks in. The most powerful tool to ensure this progression costs less than a month of creatine, a notebook or a notes app. Record loads, sets, and reps from each workout, and aim to beat at least one of those numbers every 1 or 2 weeks, even if it is just one extra rep. What is not measured is not managed, and what is not managed does not progress. Your shoulders do not grow from randomness. They grow from planned progression week after week. Reason number 8, factors outside of training. We have reached the reason nobody wants to hear because it cannot be solved inside the gym. You can execute everything we have shown here with surgical precision, but no perfect workout compensates for poor recovery and poor nutrition. Start with the basics. To build muscle mass, the body needs a caloric surplus, meaning you need to consume a little more energy than you burn. Trying to grow while eating less than necessary is like trying to build a house without enough bricks. The builder can be excellent, the blueprint can be perfect, but without materials, the construction never gets off the ground. Alongside calories comes protein, the direct raw material of muscle. The practical recommendation is around 1 gram per pound of body weight per day. If you weigh 175 pounds, we are talking about approximately 175 grams of protein daily, coming from sources like chicken, lean beef, eggs, and dairy, distributed throughout your meals for better absorption. And then we arrive at the most sabotaged factor of all after 40, sleep. It is during deep sleep that the main hormonal peaks and protein synthesis occur, rebuilding the fibers you broke down during training. Sleeping fewer than 6 hours per night chronically sabotages recovery, raises cortisol, and puts the body in a state that actively works against your muscle growth. At a stage of life when recovery is already naturally slower, giving up sleep is paying to lose. In the end, training, diet, and rest form a 3-legged stool. If one leg fails, shoulder growth stalls, no matter how beautiful your training spreadsheet looks. If you enjoyed this and also want to see the best exercises for a deep, wide, and complete chest based on science, we have a video appearing on screen right now showing each one of them in detail. It is free, so make sure you check it out. Thank you for watching all the way to the end, and may God bless you, my friend.